The Theory of Coexistence. Written by Paul Eden. Why is there something rather than nothing? Answer: it's because we live in a dimension where everything must coexist with an exact opposite, and therefore both nothing and something coexist. In every coexisting relationship without a contrasting partner, the concept of each one by itself completely disappears and becomes meaningless. Each partner in the relationship can only be defined by the other one existing. Things that must coexist. Part 1: The Foundation of Everything. Truth and Falsehood. Part 2: Mind, Human Nature and Emotion. Happiness and Sadness. Conscious and Unconscious. Sanity and Insanity. Introvert and Extrovert. Genius and Ignorance. Wisdom and Folly. Logic and Irrationality. Part 3: Space and Physics. Creation and Destruction. Matter and Antimatter. Gravity and Levity. Action and Reaction. Positive and Negative. North and South. Expansion and Contraction. Centrifugal and Centripetal. Singularity and Infinity. Wave and Particle. Part 4: Emotions and Morality. Right and Wrong. Love and Hate. Good and Bad. Fear and Courage. Trust and Suspicion. War and Peace. Guilt and Innocence. Empathy and Apathy. Hope and Despair. Mercy and Vengeance. Calm and Panic. Praise and Blame. Honesty and Deceit. Part 5: Dimensions and Geometry. Up and Down. Left and Right. High and Low. Horizontal and Vertical. Parallel and Perpendicular. Part 6: Physical. Light and Dark. Hot and Cold. Rough and Smooth. Sharp and Dull. Dry and Wet. Hard and Soft. Heavy and Light. Solid and Liquid. Noise and Silence. Part 7: Time and Existence. Past and Future. Birth and Death. Beginning and End. Something and Nothing. Part 8: Society. Win and Lose. Give and Take. Save and Spend. Buy and Sell. Freedom and Restraint. Part 9: Actions and Mechanics. Push and Pull. Fast and Slow. Sink and Float. Open and Closed. Accept and Reject. Arrive and Depart. Tight and Loose. Part 10: Concepts. Order and Chaos. Questions and Answers. Cause and Effect. Problems and Solutions. Can you think of any others? Then please leave a comment in the comments section. As I have explained, one cannot exist without the other, they both define each other, they both can only coexist. Try doing a mental exercise and imagining one existing without the other. You cannot have one without the other because each one can only exist if there is a boundary to define it, and that boundary is described by its contrasting partner, and without that contrasting partner the concept itself completely disappears and becomes meaningless. Here is exactly how that works. You cannot define or understand what hot is unless you have cold. If the entire universe was exactly the same temperature, the words hot and cold would have no meaning. Light only becomes visible because it cuts through dark, and dark only becomes visible because of light. Each gives the other its identity. This goes right back to the first pairing, truth and falsehood. For a statement to be true, the possibility of it being false must exist, and vice versa. If everything was just an absolute, unchanging yes, the concept of truth would completely vanish because there would be nothing to verify or prove. Ultimately, opposites are not two separate things fighting each other. They are just two sides of the exact same coin, meaning you can never flip the coin and only have one side exist. All the above cannot exist independently and can only coexist. Nothing cannot exist without something, and therefore something must exist, and so the answer to the question why is there something rather than nothing is that they both exist. There is nothing and there is something. 1 minus 1 equals 0 or nothing. Nothing exists mathematically, and if nothing exists then something must exist because they can only coexist. It's the nature of the universe. Thank you for watching. I have deliberately omitted an obvious coexistence. Can you guess what it is? That's it for now, but I hope you like or subscribe and leave a comment.